Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Sam Cohen. I am the Vice President of Program and Talent Management at the JCC Association of North America. I'm going to start by just checking everyone's on mute because I'm getting a bit of background noise here. Yuri, if you could just, if everyone isn't already muted, please do mute. Great, thanks so much. So anyway, welcome today to our enrichment elective session in this first round of enrichment electives. This session is harnessing the power of virtual, building strong community, and really excited you're here today. If you've accidentally found yourself in the wrong room, feel free to jump out and go back to the Spot Me platform where you'll see about 15 or 16 other sessions, but we hope you'll stay with us because we've got a great session planned for you. In addition to our presenters, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, joining today and supporting from the SRC, Prosserman, JCCs of Toronto is Yuri. Thanks so much. And both his and my names appear as hosts at the top of your participation list. So you can chat with either of us at any time if you've got any needs or questions or need any technical support. This session is being recorded, so if we understand that not everyone wants to be on camera recorded, so of course you can turn off your camera if you feel more comfortable doing so, although we do encourage those who are able to join us and be visible. To that end, we encourage you to consider the following suggestions as we begin our time together. We invite you all to rename yourself in Zoom with your name, agency, and if you're comfortable, your personal pronouns. And we've enabled closed captioning, which you'll probably see at the bottom of your screen, but if for some reason you want to turn that off, feel free, you can do that using the bottom toolbar. There's buttons at the bottom there. As I'm sure for those of you who are not joining your first session at ProCon, I just want to, remind everyone that we're really, really grateful to our amazing sponsors who've generously made this conference possible and made it possible for JCC Association to offer our movement all of these sessions and this entire event free of charge. They're around, they are in the conference platform through their virtual booths and vendor hall time, which will be again tomorrow afternoon. And we really hope that you'll join us in showing appreciation and also visiting them to find out more about what they can offer and their expertise, either via the platform at any time or via the vendor hall, like I said, tomorrow. Moving into our session for today, I want to introduce our two speakers. I'm not going to read through their entire bios because they are on our platform, and I hope you'll take a moment when you get a chance to learn more about both Andrew Levy and Jared Goldberg in more detail, but I will just give both of them a brief introduction. It's been my pleasure to be working very closely with them in the last few months on the Virtual J initiative and to be following the incredible work they're doing in the virtual space in their Toronto community and beyond. Andrew Levy started his career as in the JCC movement as a camp director and is now the executive director of the Schwartz Reisman Center and Prosserman JCCs of Toronto and a board member of JCC Association of North America. Andrew was instrumental in leading the building of a relationship with Elite Digital, one of Canada's premier digital marketing firms. Prior to the pandemic, they have a very close relationship between the JCC and that company. And then because of that relationship, we're able to very quickly position themselves to pivot to create the Virtual J, which we'll put the link in the chat in case anyone wants to have a look. And that has enabled their JCCs to move very quickly into a cutting edge digital platform for programming that has, well, they'll tell you more about it, but that has enabled them to really stay connected and keep connected to their community and their membership and do lots of incredible things in building stronger community during this difficult time. And Jared Goldberg, who is going to be presenting alongside Andrew today and really leading our presentation, is the current director of Virtual J. He began in the position of the director of marketing for his JCC, for the Schwartz, Reisman and Prosserman JCCs of Toronto. But due to his incredible background, which I'm going to tell you a bit about, which isn't in his bio, he was able to very quickly transition into this role that he's in, overseeing the Virtual J initiative in response to the pandemic. That wouldn't have been possible without the fortuitousness of the background he came to the JCC with prior to his role in marketing. He's a graduate from Ryerson University in Toronto from their prestigious radio and television arts program. He has a focus in music production and digital marketing. He's worked in the record business at Warner Music in marketing and worked as a senior events producer for over 12 years, producing big events such as the Toronto Jazz Festival and the Toronto International Film Festival. And without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Andrew, who's going to get us kick-started today.
Thank you, Sam. And I'm always humbled by, I'm always humbled by the amount of people that come out to these things. So Sam, you started with the word fortuitousness. I can't even say it. But to get everyone in the right frame of mind, I want to tell you all a story. And some people say it's better to be lucky than good. But I would tell you the moral of this story is that you can make your own luck. So let me start by capturing for you what the Toronto Jewish community looks like. There are 3 JCCs in Toronto, the Miles Nadell JCC downtown, led by Harriet Witchin, an incredible partner of ours, the Schwartz Reisman Center up in the suburbs, and the Prosserman JCC, which sits in the middle. And the Prosserman JCC was supposed to open in March or spring of 2020. As you can imagine, with the last year, we have not opened our doors yet. But the concept was, with the launch of the Prosserman JCC, it would complete a tri-campus vision that our federation had that was a $300 million, sorry, there's like a bird chirping somewhere. Does anyone else hear the bird chirping? Can we get everyone on mute? Thank you. So the federation partnered with JCCs and actually undertook this spectacular $300 million capital campaign that started in 2000 to rebuild and build 3 JCCs across the city. And with that, to transform the landscape of our community. So why did the Toronto Federation double down on JCCs? As many of you probably already know, declining trends in traditional institutional life. And the Federation saw the JCCs as the greatest number of on-ramps to engage the entire Jewish community and a way for us to combat that. So I want to set the stage for you. Back in 2019, we're deep into construction. Plan is to open our building in spring of 2020. And at that time, as Sam mentioned, we've been working with this outsourced marketing group, Elite Digital, and their CEO, Rob Burko, for a long time. And I want to put into context, this wasn't a traditional outsourcing relationship. Rob was very active in the JCC with his family. He understood that the JCC was not just about camps and fitness and preschool, but we were in the business of community building. And our camps, our fitness programs, our wellness programs, our preschool, all of our programs were vehicles to inspire that kind of engagement, and he was living it. And at the time we were planning to open our building, it was really critical to us that we looked at marketing a little bit differently, and we wanted to expand our bench strength. So as Sam shared with you, we were looking for someone with an experiential marketing background, and that brought Jared to the table. And Jared came in with the idea of transforming our spaces at the time, interesting how things change, into dynamic hubs of community. So February 28th, 2020, we're feeling great. We've got the right people in the right seats. We're actually crushing our pre-sales for our opening. In fact, I make a presentation to the board that day telling them that we might need to cap our membership at 2,000 individuals for the opening, because I was concerned about the flow of members in the first month. And then all I can tell you is what a difference a day can make. I get a phone call from Rob Burko the next morning, and he tells me he's following this growing pandemic on the other side of the world, and suggests that we consider an online platform to engage our members just in case the JCCs are not open. So you can imagine my response, right? As the CEO, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking it's never going to get to that. Stay the course. We're planning for this exciting opening. We can't be distracted. And this is where I believe you make your own luck. Rob, very passionate about community, aligned to our vision, understands the vital role the JCC plays in the community, said to me, you know what, Andrew, I'll take care of it. I've got some extra resources, going to build something, and we'll revisit it in a few weeks. Well, a few weeks, you all know what happened, right? COVID hits our community like it hit all of yours. We're in a very different situation. I'm faced at that time with all sorts of craziness, from membership communications to board presentations to all these implications that were heartbreaking with our staff. And Rob's team is working around the clock, building a platform that would become our JCC for the rest of 2020 and 2021. Now, the platform itself is like the empty JCC that we have right now, right? It's not enough. To be relevant in this space, it was critical right from the beginning that we thought about production and engagement at a very, very high level. And we had a resource. We had this incredible resource, Jared Goldberg, who's going to share with you a tremendous story today, and get you to think differently. And as Sam alluded to, he didn't have a traditional resume. And his production skills perfectly complemented what we were doing on the development side. So what you're going to get today is not a session about resiliency, right? It's not just about that. Every community had to fight through what it had to fight through over the last year to stay relevant. But it's going to speak to having the value of having different tools in your toolbox, the importance of continuously refining those tools. It's going to speak to the collaborative mindset of an organization, a shared passion, alignment to a vision, a commitment to community, to the community that we serve. And all of that together lays a strong foundation for an organization to create opportunity in the face of crisis. So it wasn't luck. It was a group of people who were willing to do whatever it takes to shift their jobs and functions. Sam mentioned Yuri earlier. Yuri's our aquatics director that has a computer science background that has been the right hand for Jared for the past year and a bit. So what I want to basically share with you is that when this happened back in March, I used to say to everybody, we're building the plane and we're flying it at the same time. We know the destination, but we're going to uncover together how we're going to get there. And you can imagine, it was a bumpy road. I'm sure you all had bumpy roads, but with a good pilot, you can manage and mitigate some of that turbulence. And we're very fortunate to have a good pilot. And I'm going to turn it over to our pilot, Jared Goldberg, who's going to share with you a little bit about our journey, but I think more importantly, inspire you to think differently about the future of JCC programming, because we believe this is just the beginning of something that could be tremendous for our movement. Jared?
Hey, Jared, you're coming in a little bit quietly.
Check one. There we
Yeah,
go.
there's that voice.
Awesome. All right. How's everyone doing today? I noticed that we have about 90 people in here. So thank you guys so much for coming in today. I have about 3 mics here, and we noticed that a couple of them weren't giving some proper sound. So I was switching between the few. Thank you for that lovely intro, Samantha and Andrew. My journey through the JCC hasn't just started when I became the director of marketing about a couple of years ago. I was a child in the JCC movement all the way from my camp experience at a young age. My mother was the director of preschool back in the day as well. So I was in programs at a young age. But the experience of the pandemic has also changed my mindset and my career path to a point where I feel like I'm in the spot in the right time at the right place. And I want to thank Daron, I want to thank Samantha and everyone from the JCCA family who I have become so close with over the past few months, especially with Days of Memory coming to an end last week. I've become part of this family that feels right. So thank you for this opportunity. And I thank all of you for coming today to talk about virtual, because I know it's on everyone's mind, and what is going to happen after the pandemic is done is what we all need to discuss. So Yuri, let's pull up the presentation and let's roll. All right, the power of virtual to build community. And yeah, it's okay. You can go to the next slide, Yuri. That's totally fine. This This is where I want to begin. And I'm not going to go over a huge history lesson here, but we do need to talk about the radio because that's where it all began. This device was the first time families sat around and listened to content pushed at them. It was where they found their communication. It was where they found their humanity and entertainment. And Yuri, if you go to the next slide, there's a gentleman that inspired my career on the next slide. And it's this gentleman, Marshall McLuhan. Go back to the previous slide for a second, if you can. This is the gentleman from Toronto. He was a professor at University of Toronto. He is a philosopher and a media, I guess you could say, genius from back in the day. And he always said the medium is the message. And I don't know if that is correct or not, but it's something to say. On the next slide is where I really want to show exactly who he is, because I wrote an essay to get into Ryerson University from this. And Marshall McLuhan died in 1980. And I want you to remember that as I read this. Television has transformed the world into an interconnected tribe that he calls the global village. There is an earthquake, and no matter where we live, or a pandemic, we all get the message. And today's teenager is the future villager who feels especially at home with our new gadgets, the telephone and the television. We'll bring our tribe even closer together. Go to the next slide, please. So let's look at today. We have an ecosystem of devices within the hands of teenagers that will create new content on a daily in a second. He was right. We now have a true global village, whether we like it or not. I know it's a little bit, can get a little bit frustrating, but we have this ecosystem now to create content in a matter of a second. Yuri, let's go to the next slide. Where do we go? We started this journey trying to figure out where to place our content, where to be. We have a community of membership who comes to our center to learn, experience new things, get fit, stay well, and inspire each other together. Everyone wanted to go on social media because that is where people were when we first started this. So we did the same thing that everyone else did. We started pushing to social media, right to Facebook, right to Instagram. We had a team that started ensuring that our instructors at home were getting into our Facebook account, and it was disastrous. Not just disastrous because the content was bad, but the technology didn't allow us to be agile and seamless. So where do you go? Zoom? Everyone seems to be going to Zoom. There are limitations to Zoom, but we chose something. We chose social media to grab people in and bring them to a certain location. So let's go to the next slide. Where, how, and why. I love this picture because this is how easy it is to create content today. He is, has a really good streaming camera. And you can see with me, I'm very, very clean and crisp in the way that I'm shown on camera right now. And I have my own broadcast lights. He has a ring light. He has a great plugged in dynamic microphone, a stream deck to change his content and switch between sources. But where is he going to push that content, and why? Why would he go to social media? He may have his own personal brand and he may want a community to see that personal brand. But for us, it's very different. Next slide, please, Yuri. We had to come up with a focus. And we didn't want social media to be our home because we had no agility or no ability to bring those people into a place that we wanted to call home. So we came up with 5 different tactics or 5 different things we wanted to focus on in order to make sure that we were going to build this community and build content that was going to be fantastic. So what is our main focus? Number 1, we knew we had to create great content. It had to be relevant. We wanted to bring in that celebrity status some way because it would bring in a huge amount of people. Had to be somewhat pop culture, and of course it had to be Jewish. Production had to be top quality. We had to be respected as a television network, I guess you could say, to ensure that people were coming to us and saying, we wanted to use you for our production. And it also enhanced the storytelling. Andrew Levy and our whole team always said, floating heads. Everyone is seeing floating heads today. And it's not that bad. People want to see content and they want to feel that they're in a room together. But we went a different route because we wanted to make sure that we can show that we are somewhat of a television Jewish network. Number 3 is amazing partnerships. And I'll get deeper into this because we had no dollars to spend on marketing. No one did right now. We're in a pandemic. There's no revenue coming in. We furloughed a lot of staff. we are in a good spot, but we can't spend dollars on marketing right now on something that isn't in the mainstream yet. So we're going to talk about those amazing partnerships and how we use that for our marketing reach. And then 4, we needed a home. We did not want to be on social media. We did not want to be hostage to people there. We needed to bring them into a place where they can be engaged, to build community and possibly transition these to membership after the fact. We now have a whole big platform that has thousands of people that we can then show content to. And last but not least, number 5 is data. That is one of the biggest things that we have learned and are focused on right now as we build the virtual JCC. Email collection, where are people watching us from? Views. We all know that on social media, views are not typically correct. You would see 15,000 views on something. Sometimes people are in for 2 seconds and go right back out. We now have the sophistication to understand how long people are watching our streams and where they are from. And last, taking those emails and taking those people and communicating to them specific content that they find relevant for their lives. So that was our main focus on virtual JCC when we developed this. And as Andrew Levy said in his opening, working with Elite Digital in the background as they focused on building the platform, we focused on building content and ensuring that by March, April, it was beginning of April, I believe, that we launched the actual new platform and left social media, that we had a good place to be. And Samantha just put the link to the platform in the chat box. Next slide, please. Welcome to Virtual JCC. This is a complete branded operation that we developed with Elite Digital. And we took this brand and started utilizing that to create a lot of the assets we produce into our shows today. And we noticed that we wanted to keep with the pillars of the JCC to, keep people engaged in with the content: sports, children and family, fitness and wellness, which we now call health and wellness, arts and culture, and education. And we pivoted from that a little bit after throwing things against the wall because we realized that certain things weren't sticking in a virtual world, but we'll get deeper into that. Next slide, please. This is where things get really, really fun. And I do need to shout out my work wife, Jennifer Appleby, and I hope she is in here with these 95 people because she is brilliant when it came to booking content. And I go back to that number one tactic that we wanted to do was bring in celebrity content so we can bring the viewers in. And these 6 people that you see on the screen right now were some of the first that we did within the first months of virtual JCC. Henry Winkler came on and he talked about ADHD and his new book, Alien Superstar. And he was very candid about that. Dr. Ruth was incredibly hysterical, and we still use some of her content to show as examples. And she talked about her journey from Holocaust to becoming fame. John Lewis, when he passed, we were able to be agile and do a specific stream with partners in the US from Congress to put on a fabulous stream about his legacy and how he worked within the Jewish community as well. And of course, Ethan Zahn, we did from Fauda and Unorthodox. These are relevant pop culture, somewhat Jewish content. I'm not going to say somewhat because not all the time it's going to be Jewish content, but that's okay because we're together talking about this, which means that it is a Jewish experience. Next slide, please. So let's go to this strategy that I talked about. And this is where things got really, really interesting and a lot of fun and collaborative. Our main strategy was to partner up with as many organizations as possible within the Toronto market to keep our specific membership engaged, but also to utilize that to bring people in. We did not have marketing dollars, as I mentioned. So what do you do with that? You partner up with people, and instead of push marketing out, we were able to partner and get thousands of people in through the UJA Federation of Greater Toronto, the Ontario Jewish Archives, the Newburgh Holocaust Education Center, which I'll talk about deeply because we partnered with them for Holocaust Education Week. Obviously, our family, the JCC Association of North America, the Israeli Foundation, Koffler Gallery for the Arts, Maccabi Canada, the Ashkenazi Festival. We now have signed a partnering deal with Simon & Schuster Publishers in Canada, and we now have a book series called Storyteller. Zionism 3.0, which was Z3, And we have partnered with around 15 JCCs across the movement. And I'm going to shout out Poses JCC because I have a lot of fun with them. We do their AGM. And that is the true magic of what we are trying to build here. So if you see at the bottom of the screen, bring in viewers, bring in registrants by connecting and collaborating with these people and these partners to get as many people in. And I'll talk about how many registrants we have later on in the presentation. Next slide, Yuri. I'm going to start with Holocaust Education Week, and I have a bunch of examples that we have done over the past year, and I'll try to go through them quickly. But this is one of the ones that was very dear to me. We partnered up with the Neuberger Holocaust Education Center. They are in our building, and they will be in our new building in the next few years with the Holocaust Museum, which we are very excited to see. But we did, I believe, 26 streams over a 3-month period. Within the first week, we did 9. And this gave us the opportunity to get their database and their community in with ours. And we brought, I believe it was close to 4,000 or 5,000 registrants to Virtual JCC just for this partnered programming. Virtual J handled all of the production. They booked all of the content. We marketed together and used both of our databases and both of our communities to get people in. And the spectacular programming that they put together, which is, I'm going to say world renowned, was great. And that was our first test and our first success of utilizing this strategy of collaborative partnerships. Next slide, please. I do also have to say that we have a channel on Virtual JCC, which is dedicated to the Holocaust Education Week. So if you do want to go there and see some of the streams we did, they're always there. They may be transitioned when we do Holocaust Education Week again. Zionism 3.0 was another test. This was something that we partnered up with Palo Alto. Zach Bodner, if you're listening, hello, we miss you. And I know that we did some streams with you in Days of Memory. So thank you for the opportunity of working with you and your team. But we did the same thing. We handled the production on their local conversations. Elite Digital built the microsite. And with this team of collaboration, we were able to bring in thousands of people to view content together in sharing stories, Jewish stories, and being able to stay together in isolation on a beautiful conference that is usually in person in Palo Alto each year. There is a microsite that is being updated right now with all of the on-demand content, and you'll be able to see that as well. But this was a very strong collaboration that worked and brought in thousands of registrants to the Virtual JCC. Next slide, please. I need to talk about this because it was one of the first streams we did. And although we were still working out production quality and working with our guest of making sure that their technology was working, we did a stream, and this was after the unfortunate, the unfortunate stuff that's happening across the world right now with racism. We did a partnered stream with the Toronto Board of Rabbis, Jews of Color Canada, the UJA of Toronto, and we did an 1.5-hour stream, which we didn't think was going to hit well as far as length of time. The conversation lasted about 1.5 hours. If you look at this, we had 1,322 people who showed up to watch that stream. And it was a panel of Jews of color talking about everything that's happening across the world with racism. And we had Rabbi Elise Goldstein, who moderated it, brought the whole thing together, worked with Jennifer Appleby, our chief programs officer, and we were agile enough to be collaborative to do this very quickly. The average watch time of an 1 hour and 30-minute show was 120 minutes, and that is unheard of. So that taught us a lot about being agile with making content that's relevant to the minute. Things change all the time. The Sarah Halimi stuff that's happening right now in France, we need to be able to have those conversations, whether it be in your local JCCs together to make sure that everyone is educated, but most importantly, when we hold the power of Virtual JCC and thousands upon thousands of people watch our stuff, we have the ability to have the conversation together as a full movement. Next slide, please. Days of Memory, and thank you to everyone from the JCCA who partnered, who let us partner with them on this project, which ended last year. This is another one where we created a channel and worked with local JCCs to create content. This was a very quick turnaround, but it did succeed. in the execution. And the JCCA produced 3 flagship streams that were beautiful and brought everyone together to celebrate in isolation. And I was very honored, and our whole team was very honored to be able to work with this. And we were also able to test out some new features and new ways of building community and content. And I'll explain that a little bit later on. Next slide, please. And I will mention that the Days of Memory channel is still available. So you can go view that content if you didn't happen to see it last week when the summit happened. So what did these specific 4 projects do? 1, they built community around common thoughts and ideas. They created engagement and conversation that we normally wouldn't have with such a large group of people. And it developed an opportunity to expand programming. And what does that mean? Number 3, within the Holocaust Education Week, we specifically did a film series where people can watch a film for 3 days. And then we had a talk back with the director where people came back and had a conversation with it. We had participation in isolation and multi-day content that made people come back. And an example right now is ProCon, where we are all together as a movement in one location, talking about the things that we would normally talk about separately. I've been part of the J community for a long time, as I mentioned, growing up, and this is the first time where I feel like I'm part of a world movement. Next slide, please. I'm going to go into a little bit of our individual streams because this is where it gets interesting. We wanted to ensure that we hit the younger demographic, and it's very, very hard, as you know, within the JCC movement. How do we hit those millennials? They want to do their own thing. They want to create their own content. They want to own that content. And Girl with No Job is someone that has created her own career. It's fascinating. Not something I would typically be watching, but she was a character. But The House, which is an organization in Toronto, which brings young Jewish millennials together to collaborate and talk, we brought her in and we had a huge turnout for this. It was relevant. It was collaborative with an organization that is partnered with the J. It was a strong partnership with the House where we're creating new content right now, specifically with Rabbi Rafi and the entire team there. And this was the first time we started doing creative contesting. And this is something interesting that you guys can start thinking about when you guys are trying to get your people involved, or your members. Sorry, I'm not going to say people. Meet Girl with No Job, if you see that piece right there. We had an opportunity to meet Girl with No Job, and the winners created some video clips. We brought them into the actual stream, and they felt part of the community and part of something special with a celebrity. So we really enjoyed that one. Next slide, please. We did a partnership with Maccabi Canada. And this is where we were able to hit a demographic that we normally don't hit, and that's men. It's hard to hit sports in streaming, especially within the Jewish community, but we did it. TJ Reeves from the Bucks was able to come in, and he was hilarious and talk about the Patriots and talk about the Buccaneers and all the new stuff happening there. I'm not a sports guy, so I apologize, Andrew Levy. But one thing there was innovation. We were able to show clips from games, and they were able to talk about it. We talked about the Maccabi games, and some of the athletes came on and talked about their journey. The gentleman at the bottom is Kevin Abrams from the New York Giants, and he came on and talked about his leadership style and stuff like that. So this hit a demographic that we didn't normally hit within the Jewish Community Center. Next slide, please. I'm going to go quick through these ones, but this is a very fun thing we did. We realized that controversy has to be something that we have in the virtual JCC because people need to talk about it, and it needs to spark conversation. Steve Madden, as we all know, is the mogul giant with shoes. He is also a recovering addict, and he wrote his book, The Cobbler, and he came in and talked about his journey as an addict. We partnered with Indigo, which is our bookstores here in Canada. And we did a giveaway contest, and we brought people into the virtual JCC. But most importantly, it was the first time we started launching a bookstore on virtual JCC where we can start partnering with authors and sell their books. So Indigo is now a partner with us where we get discounts to our viewers who want to buy books. So again, controversy, strong partnership. The marketing that Indigo was able to do is they hit an email that went out to 250,000 people. And again, creative contesting, all with a major brand in Canada. Next slide. Heather Reisman. So we are the Schwartz Reisman Center in Toronto. She is the owner and creator of Indigo in Canada. And we brought in Cameron Douglas, and he is the son of the Douglas dynasty, Michael Douglas. And he came in, and again, a controversial story about his fall from grace within the family and his addiction. He wrote a book. So we have some storytelling here. He talked about his journey and his Jewish roots. Strong partnership with Indigo. We have the owner of Indigo and the namesake of our building hosting on this stream, and it was fantastic. And it was a really, really strong stream that brought in a lot of people. Next one. Valley of Tears. We did Unorthodox. We've done, as of last week, we did Stiesel. And Valley of Tears was a good one where we partnered up with HBO Max. And in Toronto, it's Hollywood Suite. Sorry, in Canada, Hollywood Suite. And we had two guests from Israel, retired IDF Colonel Miri Eisen and Israeli actor Lior Ashkenazi. I'm not going to talk a little bit about the technology in Israel because it's fantastic, but the internet was very tough to get people into our streams without pixelation. We'll talk about it later, and you can ask me questions about it. But this was a relevant stream. It was the Canadian launch to the new season. We had celebrity, strong partnership, Jewish content, and we had a huge turnout to this one. And it was a very proud moment for our entire team. Next slide. So where is this? Where are we going with this? We have such a strong brand right now, a professional brand. We have incredible celebrity status that is on our website. We are creating these brands and stories within the virtual JCC brand. Our music history streams have been some of our top viewed content. We did a Leonard Cohen stream last week where we didn't think a lot of people were going to come out, but 300 people came to watch. We've done giveaways with Jamie Geller, and she's a beautiful guest on The Nosh, which is our cooking show. And of course, Stiesel, which we celebrated last week in Days of Memory, and Girl with No Job. We have the brands, we have the content, and we now have, I guess you can say, the respect to be able to do those things. Next slide. So I just want to do a quick thing about staff, because Andrew picked up on that. And we are very lucky. You want to find the skills within your agency if you're going to be doing more digital after the fact, but after the pandemic. But find those skills within your agency, and that will enhance your production. Yuri, as I said, is my right hand, and we wouldn't be half of where we are if it wasn't for his technology skills and his IT, and able to make sure that signal strength alone was great when we're doing these recordings and these live streams. Utilize accessible government grants. We have a team of 4 that started Virtual J from people who weren't in marketing. And now through a Canada Summer Jobs grant, we got some money to bring on 4 other students from broadcasting to help out. And I'll introduce in a second. We were able to provide opportunities and development and training to these people who are on the Virtual JCC team to make sure that they know how to edit video in at least the basic forms. And we are now working with our graphic designer in-house to learn how to do animation with Adobe After Effects and start getting to a higher caliber of production. And then the one thing I can't stress enough is that you can teach your staff internally to your own location, which is utilize the internet, YouTube tutorials, Adobe tutorials, whatever you choose to use. The internet has so much information to learn how to do certain things within the virtual world. And I want to go to the next slide so I can just introduce a little bit about my team. Virtual JCC are these people right here, and they're some of the best individuals I've had the pleasure of working with. Jennifer Appleby, our Chief Programs Officer, books all of our content. Yuri is our Technical Director to make sure everything works, and he is also our Aquatics Director. Ami Moyal, our Production Manager, who's also our social media from the J, and Brian Levy, who's Graphics and Design. The gentlemen across the bottom were from a grant we got, and we were able to hire these right out of university in broadcasting to be technical switchers, video editors, and copywriters to make sure that we had an agile team to work together. And right now we have our own television network with these 8 people, and including myself makes it 9, to do the things that we are able to do. Next slide. So we can do these things for specific reasons. Prosumer gear, and Yuri hates when I say that, and some of my team hates when I say that, but now we can have gear that is easily used in a natural setting, where before you'd have to go to the industry and get this stuff at a very high cost. We're using top software now on most of our high level streams that are capable of doing stuff that CNN and other broadcast agencies do. Switchers, cinematic cameras that are really cost effective. You now have these tools accessible. Like I said in the beginning with the Apple ecosystem, not that I am a huge Apple fan, but those tools are there for you. Next slide. So what does this mean? We're going to put a link in the chat right now, and I would like for you guys to click that. It's about a 5-minute video that you guys can watch. We don't want to play it in Zoom because I want you guys to have the full experience and the high quality. So click on that link, please, and come back as soon as you're done, and we'll finish off this presentation. So enjoy, and you'll see some of the stuff that we are doing right now in the virtual JCC. Hey, everybody. I know there's probably a few more minutes left in that video. You can watch it after. I know that we're running a little bit in time right now. But I wanted to finish off the presentation and have a tiny bit of a breakout. So if Yuri, you can go back to the presentation, let's finish this off. You can continue to watch that video after the fact. So next slide, please. So what does that mean? Where are we now? We have total registrants of about 18,547 with total views of 350,000 plus and an average watch time of 47 minutes. We now know what our core demographic is, what our top videos are, and a lot of information that we are able to see within the dashboards that Elite has created for us. And that is our ability to see what is working and what is not. If you see in the top right corner, this may not be a total up-to-date deck, but this is some of the streams that have been hit very, very well. Next slide, please. So what does this mean moving forward? We are now in 4K production. We are now doing studio recordings, isolations. We're doing we have 4 live switchers. We're doing theater integration, which is a huge thing that's going to be after the fact when the pandemic is done. You have to be able to merge the live with the virtual. We are working so hard to ensure that we can do virtual audiences into our theaters right now. And we have PTZ cameras, which are moving robotic cameras, in order to have an audience in-house, whether they be in the theater, outside, or in our atrium, to have a virtual experience as well. And we are using Team Cloud editing to ensure that we can edit content together as a team, and segment production, which is, not just having a talk back here and there, but to create these little mini docs that we can show a lot more of the content and the themes of the specific content. We are working on podcasting as well, which we would love to get into. Next slide. And what is the future, and how is this going to work after the fact? I don't know how far you got into the video, but last week was a really good experience at Days of Memory with the Mirage JCC. Shout out to them. Debbie Moline, as you see in the bottom left, was in the theater at the Mirage JCC. And we brought in 3 comedians, 2 from New York and 1 from Israel. And we were able to have an audience of about 30 people or 40. I don't know exactly how many, but the conversation was seamless, where she was able to converse with the comedians and ask them questions. And there's a really cute clip in the video that I sent you that you can be able to watch. But network device interface allows us to bring in these virtual audiences. We're going to have enhanced chat and augmented reality and enhanced polling that gives us an experience like no other. But again, we have to be able to merge the stuff that we're going to be doing in person and allowing those people who still feel uncomfortable to come out of isolation to have an experience at home if necessary. And these are the tools that we are going to be using to make sure that we are able to do that. Next slide. We are also going to be making sure that content can be watched on apps and on your television. We're going to bring that whole concept of radio back together, where people and family can watch content together in the comfortability of their own home. Again, if we are doing programs at the J, people can still tag in virtually to watch and experience what is happening if they aren't able to be in the building. A good thing that we always talk about is cooking. How can we do cooking at the center and bring in people at home who can go along? And that is one of the big things that we've done here at the J, at the virtual J. Next slide. So I want to do a quick exercise with you. We have about 8 minutes left. And Samantha wanted me to do something very special and give you guys an opportunity to collaborate in breakout sessions and do something that is relevant to our discussion today. So Adam Sandler, we all love him. 8 Crazy Nights was a great movie and brought in the JCC into the mix. So I want to pitch this. In this breakout room, you're going to be broken up into as many people as Yuri does. And you're going to talk about a Hanukkah program with Adam Sandler, where you're going to be virtually screening 8 Crazy Nights with your community, followed by a 20-minute Q&A with the legend himself. So you have this task. How do you build buzz for this program? Who is your target audience? How would you take this online programming and create follow-up online or in-person programming? And what data would you be interested in from this, so you can utilize it after the fact with programs? So Yuri, let's break these out into breakout rooms. Let's leave this screen up. You guys want to take a screen grab of it, so when you go in, you understand what we're trying to do. But that is the task at hand, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll hear from maybe 1 or 2 people.
I think everyone's back for now from the breakout rooms.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys had a quick and nice conversation about this task. I would love to hear what you guys have come up with. We have run out of time, and I want to be cognizant to let you guys go and watch and listen to all the great content from ProCon. So feel free to contact me. Yuri, if you want to go to the slide with my contact info. There we go. Jared Goldberg, without a D, JGOLBERG at virtualjcc.com. I am here to talk. I'm here to collaborate, and I'm here to answer any of your questions. I would love to hear from you guys. I appreciate everything you guys have from the JCC. I appreciate everything you guys have done for us, and we look forward to building a very strong digital community in the future. So thank you guys very, very much, and enjoy the rest of your ProCon.
Thank you, Jared. I just want to wrap up the session by firstly thanking you for your wonderful presentation, and Yuri for his help, and Andrew also for kicking us off. It was really, really great to hear about the remarkable work you've done in Toronto on virtual JCC. And I know that you, as you always are such a wonderful collaborator, that offer really is real, to consult with your colleagues in the field about how they can take some of the pieces of what you shared with us today and break that down for them to make that replicable or usable as they think about this hybrid model of virtual and in person as we move hopefully soon out of the pandemic. A couple of quick announcements before we sign off. 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern today is our JCC Excellence Showcase. You can see all the options in the SpotMe platform scheduling. These are 2 times 30 minutes back-to-back sessions where you can choose to go and listen to your colleagues in the field who have shared or will be showcasing something that has been identified as a program or idea which is replicable in your communities. So obviously our colleagues are our best teachers, so definitely go check some of those out. And just a quick reminder that tomorrow from 1:45 to 2:45 Eastern, we'll be back in the virtual vendor hall, and would really appreciate you popping in and meeting our vendors and hearing from them and some of the presentations and things they have to share with you. And of course, then wrapping our final session up tomorrow with our JCC movement moment. All of the information is in the SpotMe platform. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you to our presenters and to all of our participants, and enjoy the rest of the day.